Today on the newscast, Israel downs a Hezbollah drone and says that an attack against Iran's nuclear facilities is at the center of its military preparations. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. It was a very busy weekend in the world's most volatile and strategic region, the Middle East, and it is shaping up to be a very busy week as well. Just to recap, in case you missed it, yesterday here on the channel we posted a special Sunday newscast with some breaking updates about Iran's nuclear program. In case you missed it, check it out here in our archives right under newscast. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, we don't always post on Sundays. That's why it's so important to click that notification bell to get those alerts. But in this case, it was very important that we posted a breaking news update. We'll review that in a minute. But up front, I want to get into the breaking news from today, Monday, July 18th. The Israel Defense Forces just announced that they brought down a Hezbollah drone that had crossed from Lebanon, Hezbollah country, into Israeli airspace. Now, we're not clear yet how they brought the drone down. It may have been through electric warfare means, reportedly, according to Israeli media reports, but this was a smaller Hezbollah drone, it appears. It does not appear that it was an attack drone, and as we've reported here in the newscast, Hezbollah certainly possesses many of those, but in this case, a smaller model, perhaps for reconnaissance by Hezbollah, sent into Israeli airspace. But again, it was brought down relatively quickly, seemingly right away. The Israel Defense Forces say they were monitoring it all along, so no harm done, thankfully. The IDF did reportedly retrieve the drone fully intact, which is a good thing. Israel can see what Hezbollah is up to and what kind of technology they are using there. But why is this troubling? On one hand, you might listen and say, well, again, no harm was done. They brought the drone down. Case closed. Not really. This is troubling because it fits a pattern here, folks. And on the newscast, we try to follow patterns in the region to see where things are going. Now, in the past few weeks alone, this is the fourth Hezbollah drone Israel has shot down. Again, in recent weeks, 3 additional Hezbollah drones were shot down a few weeks ago that were traveling towards Israel's Karish offshore gas installation in the Mediterranean off the northern coast of Israel near the Lebanon border. Now, Hezbollah intentionally targeted that gas rig. Again, those Hezbollah drones were shot down as well, but Hezbollah boasted about that, folks, that they sent these reconnaissance drones towards this Israeli gas rig. Not only that, Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah has flat out threatened war over Israel's gas exploration there off the Mediterranean coast. And you have Hezbollah, I believe, courtesy of its Iranian master, probing and testing this new Israeli government. It's only a caretaker government led by the interim Prime Minister Yair Lapid. November 1st, we'll see new Israeli elections. So you have a 4-month window here where things can get very dangerous when Iran and its proxies smell weakness, perhaps. They smell instability in Jerusalem, and they may probe and they may test. Yair Lapid is saying all the right things. He's saying, look, we're not going to put up with any nonsense from Iran and its proxies. And we saw some of that over the weekend, by the way. Hamas fired 2 rockets towards Ashkelon in southern Israel. And Israel responded, as we reported on yesterday's special Sunday newscast, with strikes against a subterranean Hamas weapons manufacturing facility in Gaza, where Israel reportedly took out 16 tons of explosives using bunker-busting bombs. So things are getting very tense right now, and they were already tense. But now Iran's proxies are ramping up their activities as we expected, now that Israel, again, has had a changing of the guard at the top, at the governmental level, and who knows what November 1st will bring. In the meantime, I mentioned yesterday's special Sunday newscast. We talked about that Hamas strike, but also The big news yesterday, Kamal Karazi, who is a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei, folks, he pretty much dropped the charade in an interview with Al Jazeera Arabic. He said, look, we are at the point, meaning Iran, where if we want to produce a nuclear bomb, we can. We have the capability, he said, to produce a bomb. And it's a hop, skip, and a jump for us to enrich 90% uranium if we want to do that. So this was an instance where the veil was lifted. Once again, over the years, of course, Iran has repeatedly protested that we only want a nuclear program for civilian, peaceful purposes. There is no military component to this. Well, yesterday, this senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader was pretty clear. They want the bomb. They're working towards the bomb, and they are very close to having the bomb. Now, something else to note out of his comments, he said that Iran's ballistic missile program and its sponsorship for terror groups like Hezbollah and Hamas around the region, that's completely off the table in any nuclear talks. They won't even broach that subject. What is the Iranian regime trying to accomplish with these comments yesterday? It's pretty simple. They want more concessions from the West. It's blackmail, it's extortion. They are saying to the West, unless you give us what we want, come back to the negotiating table and give us everything, well, then we may just break out, enrich 90% uranium, and announce that we have the bomb. They are trying to wring more concessions out of the Biden administration, France, Germany, Britain. Pretty simple what's going on here. Secondly, they're showing the world that they don't really care what the world thinks. They have powerful allies in the form of Russia and China, and they are also, of course, always trying to send a message to Israel. Well, message received, because a few hours after Kamal Karazi's comments yesterday, the chief of staff for the Israel Defense Forces, Aviv Kohavi, made some very important comments of his own. He said right now, an attack against Iran's nuclear facilities is, quote, at the center of Israel's military preparations. He also said that eliminating Iran's nuclear weapons program is, quote, a moral imperative for the Israel Defense Forces, and he added that diplomacy may very well fail and leave us with no choice. Kohavi said we are planning to carry out that attack. Folks, this is serious. This is on either side, Iranian or Israeli. This is not just bluster for domestic consumption. This is serious. It's coming to a head. I've compared the Iranian, myself and others, have compared the Iranian nuclear crisis to the Cuban Missile Crisis, but in slow motion. It's been a very slow and disturbing process over 20 years now that the Iranian nuclear threat has been the talk of the Middle East, and now I believe it is coming to a culmination of sorts where Israel will indeed feel forced to act. I think it was very telling yesterday that Yair Lapid, the interim prime minister, said publicly that he and the Biden administration are not on the same page when it comes to dealing with Iran's nuclear program. Remember, Joe Biden was in Israel from Wednesday through Friday last week. He just came back to D.C. on Saturday after a stopover in Saudi Arabia as well. And Biden made very clear that diplomacy, in his view, is the way to deal with Iran's nuclear program. Lapid said, we don't think diplomacy is going to work. They contradicted each other publicly at a joint press conference. Hey, stay in prayer. God is still on the throne. He is in control. And when it comes to Israel, he neither slumbers nor sleeps. Don't be worried about this. Be encouraged. Again, keep it all in prayer. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the newscast. Until tomorrow, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.